wash away cold, but sooner or later there comes a time in life that you must harvest what you sow.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. I don't even know if I need a microphone. It's a pleasure to be here, and I got stuck with a microphone. I couldn't wander around and walk around. My first thought when he asked me to talk here was, that's really a shame that they've got to the bottom of the Christian barrel and had to scrape up someone like me to give a presentation, a talk. But I thank him for it. I really do have a strong testimony of God's ability to work with anyone now, and I'll try and share a little bit of that with you. I started off when he told me about it, writing some speeches, getting ready. And I took an expository class in college, which I'll tell you a little bit about that later. But showing how the Bible belt, how you preach a sermon, and how you give a talk, and how you stand up in front of people. This is great, man. I can use all this stuff. So I started writing off. Write a page. I get up the next morning, read it, and I go, geez, that sounds like some sermon or something. So I get rid of it. Then I start writing again. This happened several times. I brought them with me because some of you might be interested in more of theology and so forth. This one's on Calvinism and Arminianism, and I'm a little OCD and I'm a little ADD, but I thought maybe you guys would want to take these home and you can put them back together. It's been in the shredder. This one's on let's see, eschatology, the doctrine of the last days. I didn't think it would be too appropriate here. We get most of this stuff in church. What is the church and what is its purpose? That was really interesting. That took me 2 days before I started shredding it. This one was, are you conservative or are you charismatic? The pros and cons of each of those. That only took me a few hours. And then, of course, I think one that's the most important to all of us, it doesn't matter what faith you're of, is the biblical teaching on the correct carpet colors and meeting times for the church. And the theology of that is really, really deep. And I think all of you can appreciate it. Anyone that's been in a meeting, an elders meeting, deacons, etc., can really appreciate this one. So they're here for anyone that wants them. The more I thought about it, the more I thought the only thing that I have to offer really is my testimony. I'm going to give you a brief little synopsis, hopefully. I'll keep my eye on my own watch. A brief synopsis of how I was raised. And we get to thinking that we're very unique. We get to thinking that our problems are so important. We're different and no one else is going through the same thing and you don't understand my pain. And strangely enough, in some sense, that's a little bit true, because one thing I've learned throughout my life is that experience, if you haven't experienced something, then you're really not going to have the same level of empathy and knowledge of whatever that is. You can have empathy, you can feel sad, you can say, man, that's really sad. Did you see on the news where some people way off in India, it got flooded and they lost their home? I think we have a lot more empathy with that now. Here in Houston, we felt bad about it before. But if your home was just flooded and you lost everything, you feel a lot worse. You empathize a lot more. And so that's the thing about experience, is that it gives us that different level. And it's not that we need to experience everything. That was my problem. The scriptures tell us that you're only supposed to have one God. And it tells you that whatever you put your mind on, whatever you focus on, that's where your heart, your goals, everything's going to go that way to whatever you're focused on. And we have a tendency to be able to fool ourselves. We're great at that, human nature. We can justify and rationalize our wants and desires, but in the end, it's always going to come out in the wash of where's your attention? What are you idolizing? In my case, as time has gone by, and I look back on it now, I didn't realize it at the time, my God was experience itself. I wanted to experience everything. I was raised quite poor. My dad was a very spiritual person, but also had a side of him that was this kind of salesman, constantly on the move, never settled down. We figured out that by the time I was 18, I'd lived in 27 homes or apartments. I went to 4 different high schools, and of course many other schools. We were constantly moving, so you never got that feeling of being settled or being raised in one situation where you're comfortable. We were raised religious. My mother was very musical. She was the church organist, pianist, choir director. She did the whole thing. By the time I was 7 years old, I'm singing in the choir. By the time I'm 8, I'm singing alto in the choir. I mean, our whole family was raised in that musical bent. And like I said, there wasn't a Sunday that we didn't go to church. So that quote-unquote religious upbringing I had. But I was always arrogant and didn't like authority and wanted to do my own thing. And so as time went on, and I'm sure a little bit of sins of the father, some of that gypsy blood, then I tended to move a lot. I tended to change vocations a lot. And I prided myself on the fact that I'd never been fired because I chose to leave, because once I learned something, it's like, well, I can't do this the rest of my life. I'd rather kill myself. This is crazy. It was just too much of a rut for me, and it didn't matter what I did. In college, I had, I think, a total of 4 or 5 different majors. I'd get into it, start learning it, and then make a decision. It's like, I can't do this. I mean, when I went into pre-med, and first of all, I just said, well, I'm too stupid, I can't do this. And then it was more that I'm too lazy, I can't do this. It's like I didn't want to do the work that entailed. And once I learned that semester, then it was good. I'll move on to the next thing. And trying different things, business, Spanish, physical education and recreation, always trying to find something that would grab my interest and experiencing new things. I make a joke out of it, but my resume actually does look like the yellow pages from a small town and all varied in different things. I mean, it's been everything from a construction worker to a bank manager to a recreation leader to working in the casinos for years. Went to school, became a massage therapist. Did that for a while. Went back to the casinos. Went to school again. Became a paralegal. Did that for a year. And what was the thing that kept driving me? Well, that desire for new experiences. I wasn't satisfied with getting an education and saying, oh man, this is great. I never found that love of, I could do this for the rest of my life. And the couple of things that I did find that I kind of liked, they didn't give me enough money. And so it's like, I can't do that. I mean, I was going to be in teaching and got teaching certificates, but it's like, this just doesn't pay anything. And it happened that I had gotten married, and at that time I was managing athletic clubs, very high-end athletic clubs. And we started one in Las Vegas, Nevada, and then I got transferred down to Newport Beach, and it was the height of racquetball and indoor basketball and indoor tennis, and we had those kind of clubs. And so here again, I saw this. First of all, I'm very sports-oriented, and so I loved that part of it. But I saw a chance to make a lot of money. And I think this all goes back into how I was raised. I was raised very poor. I was raised lying when Christmas came, and all the kids would come over and go, what did you get? And, well, first of all, they never came to our house, see, because we pretty much didn't let them. And my parents didn't want them there, and so we didn't bring them over. And then we'd have to lie because we didn't get any presents. And so we make up this whole litany of things, the usual, and make up those kind of stories. But it has a deep impression on you as you're growing up when you don't have just some of the basic comforts and extras that a lot of people do have. And I'm sure that here again, that was impressed on my mentality as I grew up and caused me to make some choices. A big part of my conversion here was I left music, which was the major part of my life until I was 19 or 20. I was on scholarship at the university as a music major, and they told me I couldn't run track, that they owned me because they paid my scholarship. And of course, me, being the arrogant, sarcastic, I could go on and on with all these good qualities. Person that I am, it's like, and I won't share the total thing with you, because as much as I love swearing, it doesn't seem to fit this venue that well. So I'll spare you that, okay? But I went ahead and lit into that teacher and that head of the department and left, and got lucky, and they managed to give me a scholarship in the track. So I didn't lose any of the scholastic and money things. But it's like, you're not going to tell me what to do. And sad to say, that's been my attitude most of my life. Now, as I came back here after about a 40 or 45 year hiatus from music, the Spirit of God touched me again in that area, and I started writing songs. I'm going to share a couple of those with you, simply because I speak, my heart really comes through on these things, and I hope it'll touch you as you hear it. This song here is called Both Sides of the Road, and it has to do with that. Matthew 6:24 is that you can't serve two gods. And here again, it's like, it goes back to that experience thing. It's like, oh yeah, it's too bad you went through a flood, but you've never been through a flood. And it's too bad, why did they make those choices? But maybe you haven't made those choices. And the problem is it's a very subtle road. When you start serving a different God, whether it's your job, whether it's money, whether it's if you serve your family over God, you're still making a wrong decision. And the reason I'm saying this is not to lecture anyone. It's exposing my life to everyone, is that I constantly made that wrong decision. So no matter how strong a foundation that I had in religion and believing in God, it's not enough to maintain you in the storms and making all these small little decisions that are incorrect. And they gather up on you. So this is both sides of the road. And I'll tell you, he mentioned that I was in the biblical counseling. I went to school to become a Christian biblical counselor. And I figured, if nothing else, I need to leave you a little something. And so on the table there is a little handout that you're more than welcome to take one or several if you know someone that might benefit from it. And I'm not sure if I'll have the time, but you'll be able to read that. I think it's very important. And the real reason was, if this music is just too bad, then you can just read that and don't have to listen to me, and get yourself to do.
I've been to hell and I've come back. I've gone to church, I've dealt blackjack. I've been a health food nut and I've smoked crack. I've run alone and times I've run with a pack. I lived on both sides of the road. I've tried it all, it's been a long road that I've hoed. I've had a fluctuating cold, but sooner or later there comes a time in life that you must harvest what you've sowed. I've walked the righteous walk and I've fallen off that track. I've been in the snow I left, I've been the sheep that's black. On one hand talking straight, on the other talking smack. I used to be so smart, now I don't know jack. I lived on both sides of the road. I've tried it all, it's been a long road that I've hoed. I've had a fluctuating cold, but sooner or later there comes a time Why do we choose? I lived on both sides of the road. I've tried it all, it's been a long road that I've owed. I've had a fluctuating code, but sooner or later there comes a time in life that you must harvest what you sowed.
I really feel that it was that fluctuating code, those times when you might not have really cemented in that God feeling inside you. I had a lot of religious knowledge, but it didn't do me any good. When those times came and I made decisions, wanting that experience, wanting different things, following the worldly feel that I had, and it led me into all these different areas. The other thing I wanted to join with that experience thing that I thought was really important to remember and understand is circumstances. In a counseling situation, I really see a lot of different circumstances. People going through some things that are just unbelievable. And that's why I say there's a lot of people suffering the same type things. But it's because we're human, because we all make the same mistakes. We're all wired basically the same. But God really won't excuse us for our circumstances because it's how we react to those circumstances. In my case, here again, not lecturing anyone else, looking at myself, I can now see, I didn't understand it at the time, but as I look back, I now see that the way I reacted to my circumstances led me down paths that I shouldn't have gone down. And they became increasingly worse and worse and worse. They'll talk, I used to be a drug counselor, this was before I was a drug dealer. Back when I was younger, I was a probation officer, a juvenile probation officer in Las Vegas, another one of my careers. And one of those I kept saying, I should have stayed in that when I retired. I retired when I was 45. But then I remember back, I hated that job so bad when I left it. It didn't matter at that point in time because it's like, I've done this for a year and a half. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. Again, you know, I can't do this. I was married. I had 2 children. My wife said, she was from Las Vegas too. She said, this is my first wife. I won't tell you how many yet. I got songs about that. But we won't use those today. Sorry. But she said that, she's got all these friends. Look how much money they make being dealers, blah, blah, blah. Well, I lived in Vegas pretty much my whole life, off and on, in and out. But that's my hometown for it. They're raised there pretty much. And back in those days, Vegas was a small town. There was like 150,000 people in the whole valley. That included 3 or 4 cities. And people didn't understand it was such a small town. We didn't even understand what the gaming and gambling was all about. That was just another state of mind, another state almost, even though I lived right in Las Vegas. So she starts showing me all this money, how much we can make, blah, 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 we can be retired. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm tired of this job I've been doing, so it was a perfect storm for me to decide to become a Las Vegas dealer. Well, Las Vegas dealing is one of the lowest, seamiest, scummiest type professions you could imagine for the majority of the people. One of the exceptions to this rule, which there aren't many, was, could you get that for me? Got it. Is my wife. She was one of the first women to ever be a woman's dealer in Las Vegas, and was one of the only. I'm trying to remember if I know anyone else. one of the few people I know that didn't participate in the degenerate lifestyle that dealers usually do of drugs and drinking and gambling and divorces, and I mean, it just goes on and on. Every bad thing you can think of in the world was embraced by the casino industry. And it's a matter of that thing is, you open that door just a little, and it's like, I've never gambled before. Come on, try the nickel slots, you know. It's okay. And pretty soon it's like, have a drink. The drinks are free, and you play the nickel slots, and you start. And it goes, and it grows, and it grows. Does it happen to everyone? Not necessarily. I imagine there's many of you that have gone to a casino and played the thing. It's like going to a movie theater. You go there as a form of entertainment, and I don't really see anything wrong with it. The problem is that as a dealer, it affected us, and it affected a large majority of the people that came in to the casino in a way that's far worse because of our human nature. So I participated in that. Of course, I ended up getting divorced, which I was served papers as I'm dealing one day on a crash table. Had no idea it was coming. Got served divorce papers, and the guy, the pit boss that took me off, he's like, tap him out, you know. And so they tap me, and I wear my hands, and I walk over. What? He goes, dude, you know, just, and he's scuffing around, and this is one of the mean, nasty guys, and I'm like, I'm getting set up for something here, right? And he's scuffing his feet and doing all this. Well, he's seen it a million times. See, he's been in the business 30 years, and he tells me, you got another sheriff's over here. He's serving you his papers. I'm like, what are you talking about? And go over and get this, and so it's like a train. Here again, first of all, I haven't had a good foundation with God. I have religious beliefs. Geez, they say the demons believe too. I had religious knowledge, but what good is any kind of academic knowledge if it isn't incorporated into your life and the way you act and the way you make your choices? And so then, these circumstances came, and how did I react? I fell off the end of the world. I was basically a non-drinker till that day, and from then on was basically an overnight alcoholic, which led into more and more gambling and drugs and different things over the years. It was a roller coaster for me. I mean, I had a very spiritual upbringing. My dad was very spiritual, and like I said, he got later in life, he got very much into Eastern philosophies, and some of those will, if you don't have a really, really strong foundation in God, some of those sound really nice. They sound really good. It's just, they come from a little more of a worldly point of view is the only problem, as you learn when God touches your heart. So I go on the wagon for 3 months, or a year, or whatever, and then I go back into it. So it's up and down, up and down. But here again, my response to my circumstances is what caused me problems. Time goes on with those ups and downs. Several marriages. They were no problems. It's just I now had this worldly view after having been ambushed, I figure. My dreams, everything I believed in, the family unit, having children, raising them, a loving relationship. I believed in all that, but I certainly didn't have it. And when I lost whatever I did have, and I won't get into a lot of those circumstances, but I lost my children, lost everything. And it was just too much. It was too much for me. I didn't have enough reserves. I didn't have enough foundation to go back on. So, as I progressed through life, after years, I kept changing jobs. I'd go out of the casino job, and like I said, become a paralegal. Went to school for it, got that degree, go in, become one, do it for a year. And after a year, I'm sitting there, it's like, this is crazy. I can make a lot more money dealing and have to do a lot less work. And I don't have to talk to any attorneys here? Don't have to talk to these attorneys. And so back into dealing I go, because it was easy money. And I was really good at it. And I hated that job with a passion. But it was easy money, and I kept going back to it. It allowed me a lifestyle that I never had as a child. And that when I grew older, I said, I'll never live like that again. I will never be poor again. Sound like some kind of a Gone with the Wind movie, you know, is I just wasn't going to let that happen to me. And so I go back for the money. I'm going to fast forward to fourth or fifth marriage. Which one are you? This is the young lady that pretty much straightened me out a little bit from that crazy partying every night. I'll tell you a story. I had a friend. He's my closest friend. And it didn't matter which girlfriend or wives we were involved with at the time. We went out. He was a bartender there. He was from Cleveland. He was a bartender. I was a dealer. And we golfed. We were golfers. That was our big thing. Especially as we got older, we couldn't play other things, the basketball and racquetball and all the stuff we used to. We're breaking down. So we could still play golf. You know, you can still hobble out there and prop yourself up and hit the ball. But you just cut out some degenerates, you know. Here again, not the right venue, but I'll tell you this story. As I sat down, and we've been friends for 9 or 10 years there, and I figured this out on paper. And we got together there, and I says, dude, do you realize, and we make good money. We make really good money. I said, do you realize how much money we've spent on gambling over this last 9 or 10 years? He goes, no, I don't know. So I pull out these figures and everything. I says, basically in 9 years, not counting the money we won and spent back, I says, we're at, and not counting the booze and the drugs, I said, we spent $250,000 each in this 9 or 10 year period, each of us. And I had it all, and he's looking at me and he goes, holy crap. He didn't say crap. He says, that's unbelievable. He goes, well, that's it. I'll never do that again. I said, seriously, you're going to quit gambling? He goes, no, I'm never going to figure it up. He goes, don't ever show that to me again. Throws it away, and we laughed, and then went out and got drunk, and then went gambling. So it's a thing, like I said, you get caught. You get caught in these things. And sometimes you just don't know how to get out. Thanks to this young lady, she was one of those nesters. She didn't have the bad habits, had never got involved in all those. Just was kind of like, la, 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 you know. She was an anomaly in the gaming industry. And so when I met her and hired her actually, and we worked together and eventually got together, I had to change because she wasn't having any of that other stuff. And I understood that. And I'm getting older. And so it was like, I guess I'm going to have to settle down. I guess I have to stay in the same job. And yet it ate at me because I didn't want to. I hate staying in the same job. And like I told you, after the first year in dealing, and I was in dealing off and on, but the majority of the time for 25 years. And I hated it after the first year. I mean, I'd learned what I needed to learn pretty much. And then it was just not pleasant because you're working with a lower strata of people inside the pit and outside the pit. It's you're getting bombarded with it. So we had a fairly decent life. I mean, I'd mess up now and then, you know, and she'd straighten me out. And then the 2006, 2007, 2008 hit. And you know that Las Vegas had never, ever had a downturn in the economy. A downturn in the economy for them was 2 weeks or something like that. You know, that it kind of went like this. And nothing ever happened in Vegas. They were bulletproof. They said that. They acknowledged that. And it had been proven for decades. The worse the situation gets, the better it is for Vegas. Because people are going to come drink and gamble trying to make their rent money and try and forget their pain. And so that whole area is just like we're impervious. As we started losing jobs, and as revenues went down, and as casinos started closing, I can't remember the percent, 35, 40% of Reno's casinos were closed within a year and a half, within 18 months. And the same thing was happening in Vegas, and we're like, what the heck? So now we're scrambling for jobs. And what they call juice, who do you know, who can get you a job? Vegas was run on that. And now you're juice. They're getting fired. And you've got no one to go to help you get into those higher paying Vegas jobs because it's like an apprentice system. You start in these crummy joints and then work your way up to the bigger money and the bigger, nicer places. So here again, we weren't prepared for it. So as we lost 80% or whatever of our 401k, thinking, don't sell. If you don't sell, you haven't lost anything, right? I'm listening to the accountants as they're going bankrupt, and we lose this money. We start losing. We can't pay payments. We can't do this. We've got a lavish lifestyle, which we had no problem sustaining until it just kept going downhill. So we had a friend. He had a girlfriend that was from the Philippines that worked as a dealer here in the States for 10, 12 years, something like that. And he invited us to the Philippines, which is great. You know, we're jumping on any life preserver we can see. We packed up 25 years of our life and more into a big container and had it shipped over to the Philippines, and we go over there. The promises were all, I want to say slightly exaggerated, but it's better to say they were total lies. Even our friend was surprised at what his girlfriend told us. And we get over there and they're speaking Tagalog, and we don't know anything she's saying is true or not. We're supposed to be landowners. We're going to be coconut kings. You know, we've got all these promises of buying in and retiring there. And it ended up that, and it was like God. You read in the scriptures where it says He pulled a veil over their eyes. Me, I'm Mr. Due Diligence. It's like you tell me something, I'm on the computer, I'm looking up every place that I can find to find out the information on that. I didn't look up squat. It was like, I'm getting out of here and see ya. We got over there, it was a nightmare. The Muslims, on the only island in all the Philippines where the Muslims were, they're cutting off Christians' heads. Their economy's in the toilet. And everything she told us was a lie. And so we're sitting there just getting up and pouring a cup of coffee and a cup of rum and drinking those for breakfast every morning. And it ended up we had to make a decision. We're both sick. We both had pneumonia. And we had a lot of physical problems that were way past that. We had to make a decision. Our visa ran out. Which she said, oh, no, you go to the attorney and one day you get a permanent visa. They don't give Americans any visas, unless you're a business coming in with a big business plan. So we couldn't stay there. Oh, just stay here illegally. They'll never find you. You're 3 hours from the capital. We were in the middle of BFE. We were out there. And so we had to make a decision. Do we stay here? We've been there about 6 weeks, or do we go home? And my comment to her was, do you want to die here or do you want to die at home? And because we pretty much figured that's what we were headed for within a short period of time. And she says, let's go home. I want to go home. So we get out of it. And we get home, and we don't quite know what to do. And we decide, we stayed at the state line. We stayed at the state line in California as we came back from LA. There's hotels that are right on that state line. We stayed there for about a week. And just talking and what are we going to do, and blah, blah, roll, and we're sick. And I've always been kind of a manic depressive for a major part of my life. She never was. She's a very positive person. But we finally just sat there and talked it out, and it was like, I'm done. I've had a good life, and let's just do away with ourselves, And she says, well, I'd like to see Susie, let's go see her. And we had a few dollars left, And so we went over there, and we bought some furniture, and bought some barbecues, and spent the money we had, because we're not going to need it. And we've got it all set up where we'll hook the hose up to the car, and have a nice bottle of brandy and whiskey, and some good music, and then that's it. It was the first time I felt peace in quite a while, because we made a decision, and I was happy with it. It was like, I'm done. I'm fried. So my sister asked me, she says, hey, I've been going up to this one church. You want to try it? I go, yeah, love that. I said, I've been in church for 35, 40 years. No, I'm not going. And she says, come on. She goes, just try it. Well, I kind of feel an obligation, and I says, all right, I'll go see it. So we go out to this church. It happened to be a Fellowship of Woodlands at the time that she was going to. And I've been to dozens of churches in this area since, but we went there for about a year and a half. And, of course, it was strange to me. I'm used to the organ music, and here's a rock band up there, so I'm like, geez, this is strange. But I had a really decent feeling. She says, you think you'd come back again? I go, well, it's different, but I'd probably try it again. And I came back the next week, and it was one thing, and I've heard this several times from different pastors, is he stood up there, and during his thing, his speech, his presentation, he said, have you surrendered? Have you surrendered? Do you know Jesus Christ? Well, I know all about it. Ask me a question. Give me a Bible question. And he says, do you have that personal testimony that he's touched your life? He says, and it's a thing of where you just got to admit that you're a sinner and you're totally dependent on him and you believe in his mission of having come here to save you. And so he goes through that spiel that we've all heard. And as I sat there, I thought, why not? What does it matter? What does it really matter? And I did exactly what he said. And gave myself and told God, I says, God, it's your world. I said, I'm not going to be here anyway. so what does it matter? I can surrender to you because I'll be seeing you in about a week. Or someone. And I can't tell you. I can't put into words.
If I break down very into this, just bear with me. These are not feelings of sadness of having lost my entire material life. There's many here that are going through stuff like that. But it was gone. I mean, there was no insurance. There was nothing to say that, you'll get this back and you can rebuild. It's like, I was done. And so when he gave us that chance and that ultimatum, and I took it, and this is the song that kind of came up. Well, there's no rest for the wicked, only the good die young. With these two things against me, I might live to be 1,001. Had my share of pain and sorrow, and a life full of despair, unaware that God was waiting for me to come to him in prayer. Finding home, heard a voice that I had never known, saving grace from above. It's not earned, it's just a gift from God. Opened eyes, now not blind. There's a purpose for this world of mine. Letting go a broken life, coming home to the love of Christ. Well, it's not about your job or pension, and it's not about the things you've done. It's about how God will get your attention, so you'll believe and follow his Son. Finding home, heard a voice that I had never known, saying grace from above. It's not earned, it's just a gift from God. Opened eyes, now not blind. There's a purpose for this world of mine, letting
such calmness, such love, such joy on my own. I'm filled with a feeling deep inside my soul. I'm grateful God refused to leave my life alone. Finally, finding home, heard a voice that I had never known, saying grace from above. It's not earned, it's just a gift from God. Opened eyes, now not blind. There's a purpose for this world of mine. Letting go a broken life, coming home to the love of Christ.
Oh yeah, I came prepared. Just enough OCD to help me in life. I spent about 6 months bawling. God reached down and took an arrogant, angry, miserable person, and he just ripped it out of me. It was gone. It was gone in one day. When I tell people I did a 180-degree change, it was a 180-degree change. I wasn't going this way, I was going this way. Everything in my life changed basically in that one day. And I think God had to do it that way because of who I am. Because I was arrogant. Because I was a sarcastic, self-centered, narcissistic person, so focused on me and what I wanted out of this world, that it took some miraculous type thing for me to change. The sad part is, why did it take almost 6 decades of life before I could come? I spent a lot of my time making fun of the Israelites, but I'm very competitive. I've got them beat. They only spent 40 years wandering around the desert, and I spent 50 or 60. Yes. It was that feeling. It was that purity of feeling, of understanding that I didn't do anything. I didn't beg God. I didn't go to God asking for Him, please save me, please help me. There was none of that. Oh, I've done plenty of that in my life. And God has helped me. I've had spiritual feelings and things happen in my life. But this was what I call my epiphany. And it totally changed my life, and I didn't have a single thing to do with it. From that point in time, my life's changed. One of the reasons I wanted to kill myself was I'm broke. I'm sick. I couldn't find a job. And of course, in that 2008, we applied everywhere. Of course, how many dealers do they need in Houston? We got a blackjack dealer and a craps dealer. Can we do something for you? Plus the fact that I would never go back to that life. That had changed in me. We couldn't get a job at Walmart at that time. We tried everything. And so to us, there was just no reason to continue on. And so out of the graciousness of my sister, which it's obvious I didn't understand until this point in time, she took us in totally sustaining us in every facet of life, that I realized she's got to be adopted. There's no possibility. Because the rest of us aren't like that in the family. We all have that same streak. And so, who your mother, your father was, but thank you for taking us in, whoever you are now. This has continued on to this day. We still live there. And she cares for us. And just this total change of life and focus. I went to several different churches. And at first I felt kind of strange about it. I was like, this is my church, and something's happening. I don't want to be one of those kind of people that there was an argument over the color of the carpet, so I'm not going here anymore. And it took me a while to understand that, no, I I didn't have a need for that church anymore. God had something else for me. And so I'm so used to making my own way, my own decisions, that it wasn't a thing. It took me a long time to stop doing that. I still haven't completely stopped, but I'm trying to surrender to God's way. And went to another church, and he was the chair at a college here. I asked me if I wanted to go back to school. I said, no. You know, I was one of those 5 or 6 year college students with 5 majors. No. And he talks me into the same thing. Well, what do you think, God? Have you prayed about it? I said, no. He goes, well, why not? I go, because if God gives me an answer, I have to do it, and I don't want to go to school. I broke down, prayed, went down there. They facilitated it, grants, scholarships, went back, got a degree in biblical studies and biblical counseling, which is what I do now, which is one of my reasons for passing these out. This is a very strong thing. I feel very strongly about this, and take this, a little aside real quick, take this with you, read it, pray about it, because I look at my own life, and it's amazing how much of my life I'm focusing on negative things. And it's like, I have to make an effort not to do that. I'm just being realistic. And yet, all that negative stuff tends to drag us down. So that was part of my counseling thing. I couldn't help but wrap this, okay? I'm going to give you my testimony. But, by the way, here's my card. Come buy a card for me, which I have sold cards. What I wanted to end up with is a song that kind of sums it all up for me. It's for my life, and I think it's the same for everyone else. Like I said, I think we're all in the same boat. It's a thing of surrendering to God. What part of our life haven't we surrendered to God? I don't like to get into too many specifics, because then people think I'm aiming at them, which I never am. These are specifics about my life. Things I say are never pointed at someone else. I just think that sometimes God convicts them, and then they hate my guts, which is fine, because I've never cared. But we need to constantly focus and self-assess ourselves. How are we surrendering to the will of God? Because there's only one purpose for us to be here, you guys. Scriptures are very clear on it. We're here for the glory of God. We're not here to make my family happy. We're not here to have a good job. We're not here to be pain-free. We're here to glorify God. And am I doing that in everything I'm doing? No, not at all. But if I quit thinking about it, then I do it even less. This last song is one of my wife's favorites. And I think that this is the thing to remember is it's just all about God, you guys. It's all about God. And that chance He's given us, not just by saving us, but that we can repent of anything we're doing, of anything that's happening in our life. We can repent at any given time. He's set everything up specifically for us. We just have to do that surrender and understand that yeah, He is the boss of you, And I spent my life saying that you're not the boss of me, and it's just not true. He is, and until that time that we really truly believe that and give into it, then we don't have a shot. God is risen, I believe. From our prison we're relieved. He's our Savior, dear and true, life eternal for me and you. He is redemption, He is salvation from all the worldly listeners' temptations. Though we travel a road of sin, repentance lets us begin again. And though we stray all near and far, God's door of grace is left ajar.
risen, I believe, from our prison we're relieved. He's our Savior, dear and true, life eternal for me and you. Through all our hardships, God be the glory. The Bible tells us this wondrous story, and forgiveness we will find. God's grace will bring us peace of mind, and love the Lord thy God so true. The good book says your neighbor too. God is risen, I believe, from our prison we're relieved. He's our Savior, dear and true, life eternal for me and you. That is our promise, right down from heaven, from God our Father, the Word was given. Acceptance of the Christ our Lord, His Spirit into us is poured, and then our lives will change for good, following God's will as we should. Let go of your pain and sorrow, do not wait until tomorrow. Take God's hand and live for Him today. Take God's hand and live for Him today. God is risen, I believe, from our prison we're relieved. He's our Savior, dear and true, life eternal for me and you. God is risen, hallelujah. God is risen, hallelujah.
I hope in some way that you can look at the senior side of life, and like I said, in some other venue, in some other time, I can share some really ugly stories with you, and show you at what depths a person can be, and yet it doesn't matter to God. He reaches out, and that was the testimony to me. It doesn't matter, and it changed my whole perspective of God. And thank you for coming out. I appreciate you listening to me.